I'm out at the pond right now and I'm gonna show you guys how to cast a bait caster. Now, if you're just getting started, if this is your first fishing reel, probably try to get a different one. This one's pretty advanced, and for a beginner, it's not the right choice. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and they can be very aggravating to learn how to use. But once you learn how to use it, you can do a lot of things with this kind of reel that you just can't with some of the others. But before we get into casting it, first, let's go over all the parts of it that you need to know. First, this is the handle. You turn this, the line goes up. Pretty simple, you probably already knew that. The next one is the drag, and a lot of them will be star drags. It's the part right here beside the handle. As you tighten it up, you righty-tighty, that's gonna tighten it up. That means you gotta pull harder for the line to come out. You don't want it to be locked up. With any fishing reel on your drag, you don't want it to be so tight that it's locked up, especially on a bait caster. Because not only can that risk breaking your line if you hook up on a big fish, but since your spool is exposed, the harder you pull, your line will actually dig into the layers, and that's actually gonna tangle your line and could make a backlash a lot worse. I'll show you what a backlash is right here in a minute. But just in this other direction, to loosen it up, you just turn it the other way. You don't want it to be so loose that you can't set the hook in a fish either. So finding that really good middle ground is right where you want to be. Tight enough to where you still have a lot of power, but not so tight that it digs into your line. And next is this right here. This is your tension knob. This is probably one of the most important parts about learning how to cast a bait caster and not doing it in a way that you end up throwing your bait caster in the bottom of the lake. This determines the tension of whenever you press the button, how freely this spool flies open. Let me show you what a backlash is and why you don't want it. When this is too loose, it means that this spool is free to just fly whenever it needs tension. So, whenever you press down, if your finger's not perfect, that thing just keeps on spinning, and it actually spins too much. And in bad situations, it looks like this. Because here's how the bait caster works. Whenever you cast, yeah, that bait is pulling this. So it's pulling out the line. But as soon as your bait hits the water and stops moving, your spool is still spinning, but there's nothing to pull the line out of the reel, so it just spins up in the reel itself, causing really bad situations. But here's how you stop that, and here is how you set up a bait caster to be casted. I'll go ahead and start by tightening up your tension knob a lot. You ain't gotta crank it down, you're gonna be loosening it right here in a second. But you wanna tighten it down to where whenever you press the button, your lure actually doesn't fall down at all. And then what I like to do is slowly loosen it until it falls back like that, and whenever your lure hits the ground or the water, it doesn't continue to spin. If you drop it down slowly and it touches the ground, it keeps spinning, tighten it up a little bit because you don't want it to do that. Once again, I got it to where whenever I press the button, it comes all the way out, touches the ground, but it doesn't actually keep spinning once it hits the ground. And as you get better and better, you can loosen it up, but to get started, that's what you want to do. There's also one more setting, and it's usually on the other side of the reel. A lot of times it's just a little knob that you can twist. That's not nearly as important as this knob, but for fine-tuning your cast and sometimes in wind, you can tighten or loosen that up to fine-tune it. This is the main adjustment that does your big adjustments. On the other side, that's kind of your fine-tuning. If you're not real sure, just put it right in the middle and put most of your thought into this knob. That's the important one. So here we go. Let's get a cast in. We're going to push this button down, and we're going to put our thumb on the line to hold it. What's important is that whenever you let it fly, you keep that thumb real close to that spool. It's called feathering. You want to keep your thumb on it enough to have control over it, not so much that you slow down your cast too much. That's going to take practice, and that's okay. When that thing hits the water or gets really close, go ahead and put your thumb on it, because that's going to save you problems. If it hits the water and you don't put your thumb on it, it can continue to spin, and that's whenever a backlash comes about. So once again, I'm pushing the button, I'm holding that spool, I'm rearing back, I'm slinging that thing, and I'm going to feather that, and as soon as it hits the water, I'm putting my thumb down so that nothing else can happen. Now, a couple mistakes and tips I have for if you're getting started with a bait caster. First of all, bait casters cannot cast super light things. They just can't do it. They're not made to. So if you have a bait on there that's that big, or you're just casting a hook, that's really not ideal for a bait caster. You want something with a little bit of weight to it so that it can actually pull the line out of your reel. Something too small, it's just not going to work. Another problem, a lot of people just don't set their tension knob correctly. Like I was saying, you want it to where it just drops a little bit. And then another big problem I see, people actually tighten their drag down so much that whenever their drag is pulled, your line digs into your spool and gets stuck in the reel, causing a different kind of backlash. So make sure your drag is not tightened all the way down. Now from here, if you do have a backlash, click right over here. I do a video where I actually get a backlash and show you guys different ways to get it out. Or if you're big into bass fishing, click right here for my top 5 bass fishing baits that are really simple and they can cover almost everything.